What's up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Dirty Decibels podcast. And tonight I'm hanging out with the band Cruel Miracle. They are a Boston-based rock and roll band that has recently released a 5-track EP called Camaraderie back in December. And this is a really cool album. It's a instrumental concept album. So it's all instrumental, but it was written and created to be a soundtrack to riding motorcycles. It seems like it's one of those outdoor activities that's been like accessible despite the pandemic, right? Because you can be outdoors and kind of distance and
Exactly.
out in nature. So yeah. So you guys did have a vocalist previously, right? And then your previous full length came out in 2015, Manifesto. And so was this album planned all along? Did you guys kind of plan it to be instrumental, or like, is that just kind of how it evolved?
First of all, hello guys. Jeff, thank you for having us on the show. Answering your question, yeah, so we were ready. Joe joined the band in January last year, 2020. And we were ready to hit the ground running, and all of a sudden the pandemic happened. And we were like, oh no, what do we do? So we encountered that situation, and we were like, we still want to play music. It's kind of like it's a thing we're used to doing. It is our outlet as people, as musicians. We can't stop playing. So we're like, how do we keep this going? So we're like, we're still gonna be playing music somehow. Let's try to figure it out around pandemic limitations and whatnot. And so the only way we were able to pull that off at the time is the three of us meeting, basically the instrumental portion of Cruel Miracle, due to logistics and pandemic limitations. So we started meeting, the three of us. The motorcycle thing also was a factor to consider. We were like, okay, what can we do? We can still ride our motorcycle. Let's go on rides. Okay, we need to play. How can we manage to do that in a safe way? With also like meeting all the limitations of the pandemic, working around it. And unfortunately, our singer Caitlin, due to logistics, she wasn't like able to meet those circumstances. So we just started playing as an instrumental, three dudes jamming,
Right.
And all of a sudden the idea came up where, hey, we're doing this, we're writing. At some point, that's all we were doing. Just like staying at home, working, riding motorcycles, and playing music whenever we could. So we figured it was just natural to just like, why don't we just write the music to our own motorcycle adventures? It will be cool. It will be an activity that will keep us busy, like put us in a good mental place, because you know how it was last year when the pandemic initiated. So it just became like a natural thing to do. So we're like, let's just go with it while we can, for our own like mental health in a way, to keep us sane and to keep us like doing something productive as well.
So Jeff, I want to add to that a little bit. We've been riding motorcycles for a very long time, and especially with Ken and I, we've been riding for more than a few years now together. And then suddenly, when Joe, started to play with us music. We knew Joe from the scene, but we were just not acquainted with each other as people, just a little bit as musicians. So as a coincidence, Joe also rides motorcycles. So it was one of the good things that brought us together, closer to him as a new member of Cruel Miracle. And now Joe it's part of the family. He's our brother, and I think we just the motorcycle trips that we did during 2020 didn't just brought us together as a band, but also as friends, and as family. So that's when we came up with the idea. Kenny's a GoPro freak. Let's put it that way. So he was recording a lot of the trips that we do
Okay.
together, and we're like, wouldn't it be cool if we can actually put our own music into our little videos? And that's how the idea came about, basically. So
Right.
So yeah, not planned at all. Just the kind of thing that we wrote and got to learn a lot about each other and really grow and be together in that respect. And it's like, hey, if we can do that, let's try to make some music that fits it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that you guys had a release in 2015. Did you start the band around then together, the two of you?
So the band started in around the end of 2014. That's when the band started. And then our previous drummer Louis moved to Florida in 2019, and then we like CV said, we met Joe through the scene, and then we hit up Joe like, Joe, are you interested in playing with us? This is the kind of band we are. We've seen you play. You're a super talented drummer. Are you down to come and jam with us and be part of our project? And he came over, like immediate chemistry, and we hit it off right from the get-go.
Nice. So I think this is really cool because I think bringing something organic into it, like riding motorcycles, is definitely. I mean, I guess there's probably been music written that was inspired in some ways by motorcycles in the past, but like I think you guys really like nailed it with the soundscape of this record. Like sonically, it is like a tried and true American rock and roll record in every way.
Thank you. Yeah, each track has the whole point was each track to have its own separate part of the motorcycle ride, like the dawn of the ride in the very beginning, the sun's coming up and ripping through the twisties as you're like having a good time, and then kind of easing back and just enjoying the scenery. And each part we wanted to try to really capture as best we could.
Yeah, and to your point, Jeff, we started like, okay, it's pandemic time, lockdown, so we went out on a motorcycle ride, and we're like, okay, cool, this works. We needed it. It feels good. Why don't we do it again anytime soon? And then, okay, let's do it again. And all of a sudden, it became like a thing. We were like going out like 3, 4, 5 times a week just because it was the only activity we could do. So we connected that with the music, and it just like worked out for us.
Jeff, another thing that's interesting about the recording is that everything you hear that it's not music, because we wanted to make it as unique as possible.
Yeah, you guys have sounds on there.
Yes.
All the sounds that you hear, they're actually our own motorcycles.
Yeah.
And the storm, everything, the wind, that sounds that we actually captured on the road that we wanted to incorporate on the EP, basically.
Yeah, it's something that we had not done before. So in this release, we got the opportunity to explore not only sound design, but also like instruments that we had not included in previous releases. So that was kind of cool, and it was kind of like a way to expand musically and as musicians and as a band. So that was kind of cool, I think.
Yeah, it brings the sound. It really like brings the soundtrack aspect into play in a like a really impactful way. Did you guys? So, what was the recording process like for this record in total? I mean, did you guys do a lot of this? Did you record it yourselves? Did you record it at a studio? I mean, how did you guys go about it?
Good question.
So you want to take this one, Ken?
No, go ahead.
So we have our own practice space. That's basically where we recorded all the demos and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We came up with the writing and the pre-production part. But then Joe, we were trying to see who was gonna engineer the album as a sound engineer, and we had a few options. At the end, we decided to go with Joe's option, which was one of his friends,
Yeah, I
Kevin
worked with him
Ronan,
before.
that
Kevin.
worked with Joe
Yeah,
before.
Kevin Ronan, great guy, knows his stuff, really easy to work with. He tracked, actually, he mixed and recorded and mixed the last project I was involved with, Boss Nova. He tracked our record, Blues for the New Eon, and
Shout out to Kevin.
yeah, shout out to Kevin, great guy to work with, really knows his stuff, and he'll make the whole process fun. Just loves music of all kinds, and just loves to work with it.
Where's he at? Where's he at? Where's that studio at?
So he doesn't work at a studio.
He came to you.
He
he's a sound
freelances.
engineer.
Yeah, he was working a lot over at what was the place over in Somerville? Q Division.
Q Division
Studios.
Yeah, he was doing a lot of work at Q
Oh, wow.
Division.
Okay.
Yep, and then
Very
he
nice.
moved on. He actually met us over at Wellspring up in Acton, and had never worked there before, but liked all the equipment and just sat right in and figured it all out and got right to it.
Yeah, we were
Okay.
able to find a studio up in Acton that gave us access to a 24-hour lockout. So basically, it was a very nice experience because we were not pressured by time constraints or anything like that. We had 24 hours basically to come up with the, at least, what was going to be the foundation of the album or the recordings. And then once that was done, we went to a friend of mine who's also a very good mixing engineer and producer down in LA. His name is Marco Godoy, and he's the one that mixed and did a little bit of the keyboard. He basically performed the arrangements for the keyboard parts on the album.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So you guys, the bulk of it was you did it in 24 hours.
Basically, the
in this
recording
space.
was on 24 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
A
all
little bit
the- all
added. Some guitars tracked in the lab a little bit, and the harmonica we tracked in our lab, some congas and stuff like that. So a couple of extra days of little things here and there, but the bulk of it was done in that day.
And the sound design was recorded, captured
On the road.
The road.
Just over the course of the year.
Yeah, over the course of our adventures. Yeah.
How did you guys record some of that stuff, like the motorcycle noises? And did you just go out with like a task?
So we went out with a little mic. I have it right here for whoever's listening.
That's
Showing it on
awesome.
screen. So part of it, we recorded it with this. Oh, I don't know.
You can hold it in front of you.
It
Yeah.
disappears. It disappears. It's magical.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's like it's like not even something I like feel like a lot of people think about, on a record, like adding in kind of like those organic elements that just give it that kind of oomph,
The little subtleties just kind of round it out and give it the fullness.
Yeah. And
We actually
and
had
the quality
also,
of that.
the quality.
It's really good.
Personally, I was amazed with what we captured, to be honest. Kenny, that little device. That you
Yeah.
found.
So I'm like, hey guys, let's record the motorcycle sounds with this mic. And so he's like, dude, that mic's tiny. How can that look? It looks like a little toy, like
Yeah.
kid. And then we
You'd be
recorded
surprised.
something, and he's like, whoa, that's impressive.
I was amazed.
Yeah, so we've been using that little mic for other stuff as well since
We
then.
also had in one of our tracks, we had two guest performers. One was Joe's friend, Rob Proctor, right, Joe?
Yep, Rob Proctor playing some congas for us.
Yeah,
Played minor percussion and some congas.
on back
And
roads.
then we also had Shane Sager, who's a friend of ours, and he played the harmonica on Backroads as well. He's the current harmonica player that's on tour with Sting.
Oh, very nice.
So very cool kid. He graduated from Berkeley, and he's a friend of ours, and we invited him if he wanted to do a collaboration. And
Yeah, shout out to Shane and Rob.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun figuring out a way to record rock and roll harmonica to be able to fit with the spirit of the motorcycles and stuff like that. And like, you wouldn't necessarily think that works, but we were able to make it work. We got the right sound, and Shane brought the right kind of intensity to fit the part, and it was really awesome.
Yeah, that's a hell of a session player to get to have on your record, man. That's
Yeah,
great.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
like really,
Definitely,
really
definitely.
cool. How long how long have you guys all been riding motorcycles? Like how long has that been a thing in your lives?
So if you go to my Instagram, I have a photo. I've been riding since I was like 1. So there's a photo of me on the motorcycle with training wheels.
Wow.
So I like to show that to everyone. It's like, dude, I've been riding since I was 1, and like, oh yeah, right. I'm like, look, check out the photo to prove it.
Wow.
So yeah, my dad rides, and he like, we always had like motorcycles around growing up. So I've been in that world since pretty much I was born.
Similar story with me. My dad got me into it. I haven't been riding since I'm 1, but I've been riding probably since I'm 8. So I'm gonna say I don't want to say a number. I'm gonna look too old, but no, it's been probably about 30 years I've been
Since the
riding. So
60s, you've been riding.
yeah, I've been riding since the 60s.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm the greenie. I've only been out there for a couple of years or so, and actually just got myself a new to me Harley that actually just got
Oh yeah,
it just got
yeah,
delivered yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I
guy
got
with the
my
new dyno.
yeah
yeah.
just itching for that warm weather to come.
Rose. It's called
Yeah.
Rose, the new Dyna.
You guys I feel like that tends to be a very common thing, that it's like a family type of thing, or like a thing you kind of grew up around more so than not. It's generally there's like a familial aspect to it for most people that are like kind of hardcore into it.
For sure. Joe's dad rides. CB's dad rides.
Yeah.
My dad rides. So
Yeah, I always
Yeah.
remember being a passenger when I was maybe 8 years old on the back of my dad's bike.
See, I was the kid growing up that was jealous of all of you guys, because I wasn't even allowed to have like the plastic ones that ran on batteries, like the little cars.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
wasn't allowed to have any of that
I
stuff.
had one of those.
Yeah, Power Wheels.
I
Yeah,
was.
people modify those all the time too. Put extra batteries in them,
They
make
can
them
go
go like 30
faster.
miles an hour. Oh
Oh,
yeah,
I
it's
didn't know
insane.
that.
They put like
Don't
full
give any
suspension on
ideas
them and
to
stuff.
Joe, man. Don't give any ideas to Joe. He's gonna be on
Yeah.
your
Oh,
road
yeah,
with
yeah, no,
one of those
I'll-
Fisher Price ones.
Yeah, I'll start MacGyver and those things as soon as my kids are on them.
Yeah.
I was banned from all of that when I was a kid. I was jealous of any type of a motor vehicle or motorized toy in any way. But what would you guys like, if you want to talk about like some, besides riding motorcycles, what some of your biggest influences have been musically, like and even the direction that you guys had started going, like with your previous release too. I don't know if you guys want to talk about that a little bit.
I came up, I was in a lot of metal bands growing up. Like once I learned how to play drums, I was my older brother played guitar, and he showed me a lot of music. So I owe a lot to him. Got lucky enough to have a friend that lived just nearby that played guitar as well. And we did the garage band thing. We played in garages and just kind of messed around. So we were like learning some like Tool. We played Sober. And they showed me how to play Pantera, and I had to get a double
Pantera,
bass
yeah.
pedal so I could start doing some double bass and grow my chops that way. So a lot of metal early on, and then that just became too physically demanding on drums, and I wasn't getting a lot out of it. And it was a lot more exclusive before, and now it's a lot more inclusive. It seems like a lot more people are getting into it, but at the time it was a certain kind of people that would like that heavy kind of music. So I wanted to play something a little bit more broad. Did some jazz kind of stuff. I did a lot of good school. My school had a really great music program. That's where I learned most of what I am today. But I grew up with that 90s grunge. Like, it's funny when you say that, the 90s alt rock and stuff like that. Like my wife and I would put on 90s hits on Pandora all the time, just rock out to that stuff and just love every tune that comes on. But the STP, Stone Temple Pilots, the Pearl Jam, the Alice in Chains, all that kind of stuff like really hits home. Started getting into Incubus. Jose, amazing drummer. Yeah, amazing drummer. I had a lot of influence from him. Tool, I already mentioned. Danny Carey, huge Danny Carey fan. Love how he can play so many intricate parts, but still be musical about it. And you listen to it, it doesn't sound that hard. And then you watch him and you're like, oh my God, he's playing all those with all four of the limbs. So I love that, like doing some sort of syncopated beat that is difficult, but sounds like it works with the music. And that's what I usually try to achieve, something that sounds simple, but it's actually difficult to pull off. And then you got your rock stuff, like a huge Clutch fan. I love Clutch, like the groove rock and stuff like that. And this new band that I recently got into, I don't know if you've heard of them, Dopapod, which is kind of like a heavier, jammy kind of music, like not your typical Fish or anything like that kind of jam
they're
band.
local, right? Joe?
Yeah, they're from Boston. The majority of them, I think their drummer is from Colorado or something like that, but really, really cool, interesting jam songs with some good heavy stuff mixed in with it, and really fun. And I guess they have a pretty cool light show when they get to play. So that kind of stuff.
If you didn't know Joe before, now you know him.
Oh man, I think we're all one of the bands we all share, and that I think we love. We all have a little bit of different taste in music, but I think where we actually get together a lot is on STP.
Yeah.
Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah. I think that's in my opinion, it's one of them. We always talk about them, especially Kenny and I. But I think that's one of the most underrated bands from rock history, in my opinion.
So the DeLeo brothers are the most underrated, like duo, like guitar bass duo, like pretty much all time.
Just so many memorable,
epic,
so many memorable riffs and songs and melodies that they've been able to pull off every album that they ever worked on. Like it's just they're amazing.
And the way the bass and the guitar complement each other, because they don't have a guitar that's like it's mind blowing. So it's something that we take from as much as we can. When we try to write, so we don't necessarily try to write stuff that sounds like STP, but we at least try the same approach, since we don't have a rhythm guitar in the band, where we can complement each other pretty well. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's aside from that, I think personally I like the old school, Sabbath, Zeppelin, Guns N' Roses, old Metallica stuff, anything from the 90s, basically that's good quality, like we mentioned, STP, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains. I think that's mainly, I love The Cold as well. I think The Cold, it's a big influence on me that I rarely mention. And lately I've been listening to a lot of Manson for some reason.
Nice.
I like the new stuff though better than the older stuff. I don't know if it's because it sounds more mature or he's grown musically, but
CV, but not due to the scandal, right? Nothing.
It was before the scandal.
I was going to say, all I can really think about in terms of Marilyn Manson is just that everyone talks about what a dick he is.
To be honest, I don't
from the music standpoint.
Yeah, I'm talking from the music standpoint.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I don't really get into that stuff. I think the world is messed up today, to be honest, to be paying attention to little details. Man, but
we're trying too hard to survive ourselves to be worrying about that.
I know. Yeah, I hear you. I do. One of the things that this record made me kind of like think about a little bit is every type of music kind of has its like sister culture, right? Like you could say that like punk kind of shares a culture with like skateboarding and like maybe skateboarding, snowboarding, like kind of action sports, surfing, like that kind of stuff. Motorcycle culture definitely has always shared a space with music, and not necessarily one that I'm super familiar with or like have really gotten to consume a lot of. And I guess I never really kind of thought about it before, but I don't really like necessarily know what I mean. I can think of like the soundtrack to Sons of Anarchy, but I mean, that's about where it ended for me. So, I don't know, like I was curious to ask you guys about how you see motorcycle culture either having an effect on the music or vice versa, like music kind of having an effect on motorcycle culture, or how those two kind of interact, because I think that's definitely a thing that maybe not a lot of people know about or think about
So
quite as much.
it's interesting that you mentioned punk and skateboarding and all of that, because it definitely applies to motorcycles too.
Yeah.
Just like you're saying. By the way, out of the three of us, the most punk of us, I would say it's Ken. He loves punk music.
I've been in a few punk bands, and like I'm into that whole like punk skateboarding kind of like world. So from the three of us,
Right.
most inclined towards that.
But I mean, going back to the other question, we're not a biker band. We just happened to release a soundtrack for motorcycle riding.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
So it's funny that you brought that up, Jeff, because that was a topic on our last practice last Tuesday. We were talking about that. So if you put us into the biker music only like bucket, you're not seeing like a 90% of the rest of the kind of music we can play or we aim of playing and that we like.
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Even Camaraderie, like, I mean, yeah, a lot of it was written with the idea and the spirit behind our motorcycle rides and stuff like that. But the whole idea is more just like cruising in general, like motorcycles, hot rods, just driving. Like, my neighbor the other day went up to Vermont to go skiing and was telling me, yeah, I was rocking Camaraderie on the way there, and it's like, oh yeah, they got about halfway through the track, and it really feels good when you're just on the highway driving and in that mindset. It's like, yeah, it's good traveling music. Like, it just works with any one of those situations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like you're mentioning like Sons of Anarchy, all that stuff. I think the music for the motorcycle culture has changed a lot in the last decades.
Yeah.
If you go back to, I mean, the 90s or whatever, what music were bikers listening to? I mean, they were listening probably to like Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue, and
Totally.
now it's more like overproduced, simple music, kind of like what it's on, which is, it's cool. I do love, and we do have influence from that type of simplicity.
So Siri and Jeff, I'm not crazy familiar with the Sons of Anarchy soundtrack or like the music for it. I've seen the show, obviously.
Yeah.
But I feel like their music, it's always like indie artists playing.
Yeah, he took some real interesting liberties artistically with that show. The guy that created it, Kurt Sutter, he put like, in terms of the soundtrack that he used, the music that he used, and obviously like the storylines and shit, but like, yeah, that soundtrack, like, that's why I was curious, right? Because like I can think of that, and it's got like a lot of dark, like doomy folk stuff kind of on it, and like and whatever, which is very different than what I would think of people, bikers listening to in the 90s, like, very different.
There's no mainstream bands in there.
Yeah, no, not really, no.
So to CV's point, like maybe in the 90s, people were like, okay, you can listen to Rat or Guns N' Roses or Motley Crue, but now because of Sons of Anarchy and whatnot, like, hey, that's cool too. You don't have to be Motley Crue you don't have to be a biker and listening to Motley Crue in order to be cool. You can listen to other stuff as well. But and just
you can associate it. You can associate it with Texas blues and stuff like that too. I mean, it's also so broad, it's different than punk and skateboarding, in my opinion.
But, totally.
But I want to clarify, because we got some shade thrown at us at some points. Like, you guys are not like Sons of Anarchy. No, we're not. We're
not trying to be.
We're not trying to be.
Exactly. We're not trying to be tough. We're not trying to be outlaws. We're just enjoying playing music and riding bikes.
Motorcycles, and we have fun doing it. That's the main reason you want to ride motorcycles. You want to have fun. So
right.
And we're also musicians. We happen to be musicians, so we create music. And if we connect them both together, cool. But we're not. Don't get mad at us if we're not Sons of Anarchy,
Yeah. Well, and it also,
put it this way, Jeff, let's put it this way. We're the type of band and the type of people that we would go anywhere to play any type of show.
Yeah.
So if we have to.
So that there's that DIY mentality, and like, hey, we'll play anywhere as long as people want to listen to kind of band. For
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So we played for 5-year-old kids,
Yeah.
and we
Nice.
played for people in nursing homes.
Yeah.
If you know, we've been all over, and we played in farms. And I mean, Joe has not been able to experience that with us yet,
Due
Yeah,
to COVID.
because we haven't been able to perform live, because of the pandemic. But he will soon, and I think he shares that same sentiment.
oh yeah.
That-
If the energy's there and the crowd's enjoying it, it doesn't matter what you're playing or where you're playing.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've
Yeah,
played.
sure.
So I know Jeff is familiar with that, but we've played O'Brien's our good share of times,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
you have 2 people there, and sometimes you have a full venue. So we
Yes.
still give our 100%.
I worked at O'Brien's
Oh.
previously as well. No,
Cool.
I haven't been. I had prior to the pandemics. I hadn't really been in there in about a year. But I was gonna say it almost like the way you guys have approached it too. It almost becomes kind of like a chicken or the egg kind of thing. Like it's like, are you making music to listen to while riding motorcycles, or are you riding motorcycles and making music? I don't know. There was kind of a funny chicken or the egg type of dynamic that I was kind of thinking about there when you were talking about it before. But I think it's really cool, because I think that's the thing is, right, like you can make it whatever you kind of want it to be, and it doesn't really have to fit into a box in that sense, but I just think it's cool to see like that connection between music culture and another type of culture, like a physical activity or a sport or another pastime that kind of runs parallel to a style of music or a type of music or whatever,
So it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned that, because so let's say 6 years ago, it wasn't as easy to have footage of whatever you were doing or creating content. But in modern times, like you can create content with your phone. There's some crazy cameras that you can like use for any like specific function. So this past year, it's like, dude, we got the GoPros, a bunch of GoPros. We got this other cameras. We got the DSLRs. We got our phones. So it happened that at some point we're like, we have all this footage and all this content. So that kind of like gave a way to like, why don't we create music? We are musicians. Why don't we create music to go along with that?
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was kind of cool. And that was something that wasn't as evident 6 years ago when we started the band,
Right.
Yeah. And to talk about the culture too. I mean, we had, I can't remember how we hooked up with this guy. I think it was somebody that Kenny had linked up with, but a guy that does all this 4-wheel stuff in Australia, right?
Oh
And he's got a YouTube channel, just his adventures of going 4-wheeling with his friends. And he used a couple of our tracks from Camaraderie as background music for the whole 4-wheel experience.
Oh, that's rad.
And then
Nice.
my father is yelling about this guy doing a show called Vice Grip Garage, and he's just this kind of eccentric mechanic that just fixes a bunch of old cars and does all that kind of stuff and plays a bunch of interesting music in the background during the shows. And like this, our kind of deal would fit perfectly alongside of that as well. So I mean, it can go wherever you want it to.
Yeah,
for sure, totally. Did you guys?
But it was definitely written on with the motorcycle mindset.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's pretty obvious just by the tracks, but
yeah, for sure. Speaking of, so the video that you guys put out for Revving, how was that compiled like from a lot of footage? Like how did you guys shoot that? Because like it looks awesome, and I'm super curious. Like, were there drones involved? Was somebody following you with a car? Like how did you guys do that? And where was it? Was that in Western Mass? Like where did you guys do that?
Good that you ask. So it was shot during pandemic time, so there was a lot of things we had to overcome and whatnot. So we took a DIY approach. At some point, we brought our close friends, the Sickler brothers, They work like shooting videos and that kind of thing. And we're like, dude, we want drone shots. So come with us. We went up to New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
where you
Okay,
can-
cool.
Where you
Yeah.
can take your helmets off. And,
Yeah.
I think it was,
Yeah.
what's the place called? See, I forget. And Joe.
So Jaffrey.
Jaffrey, New Hampshire. So we got there and we took our helmets off and like, hey, Ronald, let's throw the drone up in the air. So here's a funny story. First take, he's like, yeah, we're doing this. He lost control and the drone got tangled in a tree as we were starting the day of shooting. And we're like, holy crap.
And this tree is like hanging over the lake that we were
The
filming
tree's like
at, so
hanging
it's
over a lake.
if it falls,
I
it's
my
going right in
one
the water.
little thing.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Oh,
So
and we're like-
how to get it out?
So we're like, holy crap, we just screwed the whole drone footage. Okay, we're gonna not have a drone and whatnot. And then Joe saved the day. Joe.
Yeah, Joe.
Yeah.
Joe is. We found out that day that Joe not only has the mindset of an engineer in his mind,
He has
Even-
elastic arms as well.
but he could have gone to the Olympics for some or the Ninja Warrior show. Or
You're
something
one of
like
the
that.
you're one of the Invincibles or whatever.
Yeah, my lanky ass got climbed up on this tree hanging over the thing, and somebody grabbed a big long stick and actually taped a bag to the end of the stick, and they were hoping to try to catch the drone. And I'm like, you know what,
Yeah.
if I can climb up there, I can reach and I can grab this thing. And I'm leaning on the thing, and they've got a couple of mic cables roped
we
around it,
like-
holding
we
it to
need
make sure it doesn't break and fall in.
So we
We're throwing
so-
XLRs. We were
So-
throwing XLRs to catch the drone.
So
Yeah.
Jeff, we're like, we need a
Wow.
rope to try to like lasso the drone so we don't lose it, because if we lose it, it falls into the lake. So we're
Yeah,
like, we
man.
have a rope, and then someone's like, I got an XLR cable, and we're like, I guess we'll try that because we have no other option. And we're like lassoing an XLR cable, trying to grab the drone, and then that didn't work. And then luckily, the only person that was like gonna be able to do something was Joe, because he's like 150 pounds or less.
And I got these
Yeah,
lanky
this
long arms.
Skinny little tree. Like every inch he moved up, the tree was down like a few inches. And we're like, oh my God, this is gonna be a catastrophe. But Joe was able
We
to-
have it on video. You have it on
Yep.
video, right?
we have
Yeah, we got it.
footage on it, and that's probably gonna be included on the ripping video coming up soon.
Oh,
Yep.
nice. I was gonna say, I mean, it's like that sucks, but also like at least it didn't crash. You know, like
Yep.
it getting tangled in a tree. It's like you know,
Yeah,
at
it
least
was like the
something caught it. You know, those things are
Yeah,
not
it was
cheap.
like the only tree that was over the lake. The only one in a big ass lake, you know?
That's
So it was
not-
like we were lucky.
I gotta wonder how many
Yeah.
crazy stories about drones like are out there just since they've been a thing, like about
Yeah.
people losing them in weird spots and like or getting them stuck in weird spots and crazy shit
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So,
But
so
going
luckily
back-
we were able to save the drone, and I mean
Film the
the,
whole
the
rest
rest
of
of
the day.
the stuff was
So-
done with
yeah,
with GoPros, and
not
then it
only-
was from different trips. It was not everything one trip, right?
yeah, it was
Right.
several days. We shot some of it in near Joe's house. What area will that be, Joe?
That was Rhode Island. Yep, we went down
No,
Rhode
no,
Island
near
there.
your place where we shot the some of the highways and the close
Oh
shots.
yeah, over in Westwood. There's
Westwood.
I
some
can't
of it
remember
was
what the
New
park. There's a
Hampshire,
park
some
over
of it
there.
was Jaffrey. Pretty
Yeah,
much.
some of it went with those GoPros on the crazy rigs that I built. I built a couple of
We
rigs
built
that
some-
would mount to the side of the bikes to be able to get a very specific shot off the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. I really thought it was cool, and
Yeah.
I was curious as to like where, because it definitely looked like it was like, oh, this has got to be like, you know, out in the like Western Mass or like Berkshires or like some, but yeah, New Hampshire and
Yeah.
Rhode Island, that would make sense.
So we did have one of the trips we took with the Ziegler brothers, the guys who brought in the drone. They drove and they filmed us from their car too.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
So-
Yeah, it's cool too. Like the you guys were saying before, just like the amount of content being accessible to so many people now to create it, and it like it's like it gives you more of a inspiration to create when you have like the tool, because you're just like,
Yeah.
hey, like I've got these toys like these cool toys to
Yeah,
play
yeah,
with.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
let's
So-
do
so-
shit. Let's do shit with them and like make stuff. You
Correct,
know, it's
correct.
like,
So now you mentioned that, Jeff, we got approached by Michael Marotta and the guys from Ex Hyena, which is a local electronic music band, and they're like, "Dude, can we use some of the motorcycle footage that you guys have?" And we're like, "Sure,
yeah,
help yourself." So we share like, I don't know, like 30, I don't know, like how much footage did we have? Like a full hard drive of motorcycle footage for them to pick from for their video. So there's like an Ex Hyena video which features us on motorcycles, which is kind of cool. I don't know if you're
Nice.
familiar with them.
you know,
It's called
I'm not
Motor
familiar with
Freaks,
them.
right?
I'm gonna
Yeah,
check it
Motor
out now,
Freaks,
though.
I think was the tune.
Motor Freaks is the name of the song.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, man, it's like everybody, the community around Boston too, like with music and like sharing everybody's art is super inspiring too, and just like really encouraging the way that everybody kind of has helped each other out, especially like since the pandemic started too. So,
Yeah.
when was the last time that you guys played live before everything locked down?
September 2019. I think.
Okay.
September or October, Ken? September, right?
I think September. I think we played the Alston Music Festival.
I think
Oh,
that's the
nice.
last show, right?
Austin Street Fest.
Yeah.
Yes.
I worked one of those ones. I don't think I worked the 2019 one. I think it was a 2018 one. But yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of like, the topic of conversation on the podcast, keeps inevitably turning to the way that people's art has changed because of all this, and the way that good has come out of it, and the way that like people have adapted in certain ways to use their art to get through it. And like I think this is just like a really cool, like it's a perfect example, because you've got something like riding motorcycles as like that release, that escape to begin with, to lay a groundwork for like where you're gonna go to get some emotional mental health relief from like everything that's been going on. But but I think like something like riding motorcycles it kind of always serves that purpose, right? I mean, like even pre-pandemic times, I have to imagine.
Yeah, it's kind of the point.
I don't go to a
Drink.
I don't go to any counseling. I just buy stuff for my motorcycle.
Yep, to
Right.
wind therapy.
Yeah.
It's definitely like meditational for me, like 100%. I was talking to the guys because like we did all of this, and then winter came and I didn't go out on the motorcycle. And then recently we had a few days with like where the weather was cooperating, and we went out a few times, and I was like, I needed this so bad. So
within 2 minutes, it's just big smile. Just, it's just like that's that release and that comfort, that calm.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a similar thing with music too. We're like at some point we were like, we need to play music. We just need to. It doesn't matter what or where or with who. We just need to play music. We need to like let that out.
Yeah, we got lucky. I mean, even throughout the whole the brunt of it, I think we only missed like 6 weeks or something like that, where we just plain couldn't play when things were really bad, especially here in Mass. And so we really only missed that 6 weeks. And besides that, we were still able to get together before that and then after it and get the music to happen and get it recorded and get it released.
Yeah, we've been with the three of us. We've been very serious about.
Super cautious.
Basically, we've only hanged with our immediate family that live with us and ourselves.
Kept the bubble small.
So,
yeah.
The that's been a huge aspect to it too, is like navigating how to record music and how to get together and practice and how to do this kind of stuff. And it's been pretty cool. I mean, people have done some neat stuff, like figured out how to remotely like rehearse on software that's much more complex and much more expensive than Zoom. But like people have figured out how to do some of that stuff and kind of collaborate remotely and stuff like that, which is really cool. But it's tough. It's not like
It's not the same.
Doesn't substitute, yeah, you know, being
Yeah.
in person. So
Mhm.
it's been cool to see like how people have navigated it and like how they've what's come out of it, like the positive that's come out of it, you know, which is also really cool. So had you guys ever considered writing about, like, had motorcycles ever been a inspiration point prior to the pandemic that you guys had ever thought about writing music to kind of go along with it, or did it really come out of, you know, just after the pandemic had started and you guys were writing together?
Like CV said, so him and I rode motorcycles. We've been riding together for a while.
Right.
So at some point we did have the ideas like it will be cool to have music of an adventure of ours, like going somewhere on the motorcycle and whatnot. But it was just an idea thrown like.
Yeah, we probably discussed it at one point, but it was just like an idea, a random idea. It wasn't anything that we
put that
saw.
into matters. It has always been an influence on the music we write in the band, but it's obviously part of our like lifestyle in a way. But it, like last year was the perfect opportunity, and it like I said before, it happened organically. We had Joe on board, which is like the perfect fit for that what happened. So it just made sense.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, it's time. Let's do it.
Dude, we didn't even give too much thought about it. We're like, dude, we're writing, we play music. Let's create music for our writing adventures, and we have content. Yeah, let's do it.
And we obviously knew we knew we weren't going to be playing it live anytime soon either. So it was kind of directed toward that product placement kind of thing.
We did consider that at the time. Yeah, we're like, we're not going to be trying to write music to be playing live anytime soon. So
yeah.
No, Jeff, and again, I mean, with having Joe on board, you know, him being new to the band, he was kind of an icebreaker, you know, just to see where our limits were and how much we could explore musically, and different sounds, different textures.
Oh yeah, so, yeah. It made it very easy for me to join in because it wasn't like, okay, here's the new guy. This is the music we do. Try to keep up with us. And it was more like we were all out of our element.
You were all
like,
kind of starting from the
same place. We're going to do something new to all of us. So let's just see where the creativity goes.
Yeah.
Was the writing process any more challenging or difficult in any way, or different or easier, like without writing lyrics and like vocal parts to the songs? Or like, how did that process usually work before versus the way you did it this time?
That definitely a little tough. I mean, you train yourself as you're growing up and writing music to make sure you're leaving room for vocals, and to flip that back around and be like, okay, don't leave room for vocals this time. Let's try to fill it in and make sure that we make it interesting without that, and make it not sound like something's missing.
Yeah, and I would say it was noticeably different because we also wanted to include elements that we had not included before, like keyboards. So if you listen to our album or EP, there's a lot of keyboard work on it, which are mostly arrangements that we came up with and we envisioned.
Yeah, you guys got that nice like B2 sound in there and stuff.
Sir.
Yeah.
So that was something we're like, okay, for this release, we're gonna like consciously try to include that as a lot, you know? And we did. And that was something new to all of us. We had not done it in that way before. Same with the harmonica, same with like a bunch of minor percussion. If you pay close attention to the recording, there's so much minor percussion, like maracas, tambourine work, shaker. We got robbed with congas. I don't know what else is in there, but we have so.
I think we have charrasca at some point. There's a place where it has charrasca too.
Yeah, so that was fairly new to us. So yeah, definitely a different approach to what we used to doing before. Also, the songwriter, like Joe said, like, hey, we got to leave room for the vocals and the melody. Now, in this case, we actually want to include more elements so it doesn't feel empty, you know?
Yeah.
We'd have the bones down, and we'd go back and forth. I mean, we had all 5 songs, although we really pretty much had each one like probably at least 95% before we moved on to the next. But in each song, we really had most of it, and then we really worked on it and hashed it out and said, okay, this isn't sounding right. It's not exactly what we're looking for. What do we do with the bass? Now I like the bass. Let's try, maybe if we do something a little different on the drums and maybe change that fill up a little bit, or maybe I got to do something a little bit different on the guitar. And each time we would adjust adjust a little bit based on how we were feeling. Like, I like this could change, let's see what happens. Nope, I didn't like that, let's try this instead. And then we filled it in, and then everything was 100%, and we weren't done until we liked what it was, and then moved on to the next one.
Yeah, it's nice not to be under the pressure too, like you said. Like I think this pandemic has, I mean, the few good things that have come out of it, like one of them has been the fact that a lot of people have been able to approach their creative process without that pressure on them all the time. Like they've been able to kind of like let things happen as they happen and be like, I can approach this slowly, like slower than maybe you normally would if you were kind of setting a deadline for yourself, because you wanted to have the album out by the time you did a tour or you did a certain show or you did whatever. And I think leaving that room to breathe like actually has brought out some good in a lot of the way that people have been creating in their process.
This definitely led us to explore some of our limits, not only as like performers, like, oh, I want to play super fast or whatever, but more creatively, just basically what you're saying, and getting us out of our comfort zone. I mean, I think Joe always mentions the cowbell, right? Joe, the
cowbell and the tambourine were new for me. Not a lot of cowbell or tambourine in metal bands, so that was definitely new. But I love it. Like, I mean, once we found the right place for it, like, I mean, you talking about that 1 down 5 up, that groove just would knock on the cowbell. It's perfect. It just hits just right.
Yeah.
I like that song. I like that melody in that song.
The other thing we kind of like explored on during the pandemic was the usage of at-home recording. We bought a few Scarlett Focusrite Scarlett interface. Yep. So we started messing around with that. I had not done any of that before. So 2020 was the year for me to learn and explore in that aspect. I'm pretty sure same with CV, and it came in handy later for recording our own demos, which we had never recorded in that way before.
Right.
In previous years, it will be just like, turn the iPhone on and press record. Let's play whatever sounds. That's the demo.
Yeah. It's been the year that people have dug into teaching themselves stuff, like new skills, like learning how to use new gear, and which is a cool thing. I mean, it's been cool to see. It's also been cool to see like people's home setups that they've kind of created, like workstations and small studio setups and stuff.
One of the things we kind of focused on last year was trying to be productive in a crappy year. We're not the kind of person that we're going to sit at home like dwelling on it and waiting. We're like, dude, we got to do something. I'm going crazy. Let's be productive. Let's go out. Let's create, So that was kind of like our thought process at the time.
Have you guys been approached or are you planning on doing any kind of like live streaming or any sort of live show or like streamed show or whatever before real shows
question
come back? Or
super good question. CV,
it's funny that you mentioned it because we were gonna forget, right, Ken?
Yeah So there is a live stream coming up that we've been working on. It's gonna be out on April 1st.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. And it's gonna be
April
out
1st.
through, let me tell you the name of it. I have it right here. It's called Global Music, Global Truth. It's on Facebook. I think it's a Facebook group. So I think they're gonna have a live stream going on for 24 hours with the bands all over the world. So we're gonna be we're lucky to be part of that on April 1st.
Cool. All over the world, all different parts of the world.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think it starts in the UK and then it goes through time zones or something. I don't know, some crazy stuff like that.
Yeah.
So are you guys gonna do it like from your practice space or like? Yeah. Cool. Nice. Yeah,
learning all that equipment, we were able to figure out how we could get a pretty decent sound out of the lab there. I mean, not like full on recording worthy, but pretty damn close to it. I'm actually really surprised at how solid a sound we got out of that room.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be the first time, that somebody's gonna actually be able to see this lineup play Camaraderie live, basically, because we haven't played it live for anyone, you know, outside of our immediate
camera
you
crew,
know, like our sound engineer and,
Right.
and
Yeah.
our photographer, you know.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the reception of the album, despite the fact that we're in a pandemic and like you guys haven't been able to play it live, has been good? Like, I mean, I think that's
pretty
I think that's
good.
the other the tricky part too, is like, you know, getting an album out there and getting people to consume it. I guess could be easier given the circumstances of the pandemic and having a lot more time, you know.
From the beginning of this release, from the ideation of it, we weren't planning on playing it live. So we know what we were getting into. So we were more like focused on like, okay, let's work on the video, which we shot and kind of like we kind of shot ourselves and edited ourselves. And that was pretty much where we had our eyes on at the time. So not being able to play it live, it's not surprising. We were not counting on that. We were more counting on like social media, and exposure, and like articles on vlogs, podcasts, and whatnot.
We wanted to make sure we had the video to go along with it, because a lot of people, especially anybody that knew Crew Miracle before, they'd be expecting the old Crew Miracle with vocals and the whole bit. And obviously it's going to be different. And if you're expecting that, maybe you would be, I don't want to say disappointed, but maybe taken aback. But if you understand what the idea was, and like you got to pair the video with it, because it's not just the song being played on the live stage, it's the song to go along with the video of rolling down the road in whatever part makes you happy. So once you make that connection, it's like, okay, yeah, there it is. I understand it. That's where it fits. So that's making sure people have that kind of idea at the beginning is what we're trying to push for.
100% people that like once they kind of understand the concept and the thought behind it, they were like, oh, cool, that makes total sense. Yeah, I dig it. That's amazing. You guys are awesome. So there's that little transition that people need to go through in order to understand what this release means. But now I want to clarify something. It's not that moving forward, we're just an instrumental band playing music for motorcycle. That's something that we need to like clarify, because some people get the wrong idea. They're like, are you guys doing like motorcycle music from
that was the next question I was going to ask is going forward, what's next for you guys, and like what's down the road, no pun intended, you know, for Crew Miracle, and like, yeah, I mean, do you see yourselves going forward with having vocals again involved once we go back to live shows and stuff?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got a lot of tunes already ready to go, traditional style tunes with vocals. Like the whole instrumental thing, that was the 2020 Crew Miracle, and that was the whole plan for that. It's like, hey, for this year, this kind of circumstances, this is what we're going to do. But moving forward, we're definitely going to be in the same kind of idea of traditional 4, maybe even a 5-person setup. We love the keys so much that we're looking into having a full-time keyboard player too to add into the mix. So we'll be having some good stuff coming in the near future.
Yeah, so if anyone listening to this plays keys and are interested, hit us up. Full-time keyboard player.
Hit them up for auditions, man. Yeah,
absolutely. And you don't need to ride a motorcycle to hang with us.
It's a plus, but not a requirement.
Although it sounds like by the end they will ride a motorcycle, probably, if they hang out.
They may just catch the bug.
We got a few people already like making that decision.
I was gonna say, so one of our photographers, you know, that's he's like an additional member on the band. He just got a motorcycle, so he actually bought Joe's old motorcycle. So
the only virus you're gonna catch from us is the motorcycle bug.
You're spreading it around. Hey, it's not a bad one to catch, at least, you know. Which is cool. No, I think that's rad, man. And it's like, you guys, you know, it's one of those things where like so many people who like are artists are gonna look back on this year and like it or not, there's gonna be something about the stuff they created that is just, that lives on its own, you know, for better or for worse. And it's cool that you guys, you know, were able to create something super positive out of the experience. And thank you guys all so much for hanging tonight and for doing this.
Thank you.
And you can check out Crew Miracle on all of the socials everywhere. They are on YouTube, Cruel Miracle. Bandcamp is cruelmiracle.bandcamp.com. They're Cruel Miracle on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and you can check out the music video that they made for their song Revving. Their release, Camaraderie, it's been out for a few months now. If you haven't heard it, check it out. It is fantastic rock and roll music. It is a quintessential soundtrack for riding motorcycles, and it works perfectly. So so give it a listen, and thanks for listening to the podcast, and thank you guys for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having
Thanks for
us.
having us, Jeff.